JG is a smart, really fast learner, has picked up on the system really fast. Like you can tell, like he played on a high quality team last year. And you kind of forget a little bit that he is still a freshman. Like last year was the first semester in school for him in terms of being a high school guy. This is his second semester. He's done a really good job in terms of interacting with the teammates. Like he's just a old school football player. Like you can tell he's got a really good feel as a running back in terms of being able to find holes, anticipating and set things up in terms of a blocking standpoint. So he's come along really fast in his time that he's been here.
Patrick and Brent.
Following up on that, what did you guys see in his Tulane season that
Yeah.
made you guys like him and want to bring him in? I think he was a fit for the offense.
I think that you look at it, he's a guy that goes out there and plays early as a freshman, a true freshman in college, on a playoff caliber team, and did a really good job of starting 5 games in that season. It was productive from that standpoint, but you see a guy that has a really high ceiling that is not maxed out from that standpoint. You saw the pass catching ability out the backfield, the pass protection ability, the running the football ability as well. Feeling like from a character standpoint, he was a really good fit that would fit into that room, and he's done that.
Has he exceeded your expectations through one scrimmage and 2 weeks of spring in terms of what you thought you had versus what you've seen?
No, because he was a guy that was on the radar for me at some other spots that I've been at from a recruiting standpoint. So I had watched him practice before, understood what the skill set was, understood the mental makeup. This is a kid that had Harvard and Ivy League offers coming out of high school. So I knew he would be able to process fast, and I knew he had a skill set. He just had to get his body right in terms of getting in shape. Was a little overweight his senior year of high school and got that under control. And even coming in now, he looks really, really good. And you can tell Dio has done a phenomenal job with that whole entire group in the weight room.
Ryan?
How big of a deal is it to have a guy that's already rushed for 1,000 yards in the SEC to come back with a pretty young group?
It's huge. It's huge because you look at the production. You know what I'm saying? You got a guy that understands what he's walking into in terms of seeing it week in and week out in terms of the caliber of teams that we're going against. He's understanding what it's like when the game's on the line and have to go out there and make plays, you know what I'm saying, in all 3 facets of the game and running the ball, the protection piece, and the passing game. So it's huge having Bish back.
Austin, and then Sam and Mike.
This is the first, as he referenced, first time you had this here.
Mhm.
A guy returning with 1,000 yards. Do you see DeSean carry himself differently now than maybe at this point a year ago going into spring, where he was having to win the job versus now he's the guy and he's the lead dog? And then two, as far as Daune Morris, what do you see from him this spring as well?
First question, Bish still is Bish. You know what I'm saying? His mindset, his mentality, the way he carries himself, it's still him. He's still going to be the first guy in the building, still going to be the best note taker, on the whole entire team. The way he goes about practice in terms of being a technician has been really good. His habits, his characteristics that's helped him get to this point has not changed. You see a little bit more sense of urgency with Bish, though, in terms of understanding, I'm in a leadership role, I'm a returning starter on this offense. I don't want to live off the things that I did last year. I want to go be better this year than I was last year. So you see all of those characteristics with Bish. With Daune, you've seen him grow and mature. That joker now is doing the things necessary in terms of from being a pro in his mindset. You see the way he goes attacks it out there on the field now. You see the way he carries himself in the meeting room and the entire building. Last year with him, he was a guy that was transitioned from being in high school that had been the best player on the field to now you're coming in, you're having to compete. And now you see him rise to the occasion in those situations. His pass pro has gotten better. Not to the level that we all want to be at yet, but it's gotten better. You see him being physical. You see him putting hands on people now. Running the football standpoint, he's done a really good job. We all knew what kind of weapon he was going to be in the passing game. But in running the football, he's done a really good job of being able to be patient, get his pass down, and go pad +2.
Sam?
Going off of what you talked about with Bishop being a leader, just how have you seen him take on that leadership role, especially with a new-looking young room?
Yeah, well, you see him take, we got JG in, he's a new guy in the room. The rest of those guys have been there. You see him kind of take him up on his wing, JG sits on his right-hand side in the meeting room. You know what I'm saying? So when there's questions that need to be answered, when I'm not in the room, when the other coaches are not in the room, Bish is the guy that's doing it. Same situation when they're doing walkthroughs. He's being the leader in the room to where, here's the things that were my pitfalls when I first came in to where they can learn from. And now he's helping them to make sure that they're not, walking in the same footsteps and maybe mistakes that a freshman makes early on to where they're kind of accelerating their process too from a learning standpoint.
Brent, then Austin.
Coach Heupel said on Thursday that you guys sort of limited DeSean, didn't give him a ton of carries.
Mm-hmm.
He's always been a guy that's had a chip on his shoulder,
Mhm.
something to prove. Have you had conversations with him about, hey, we're going to manage you maybe a little bit different since you're the returning 1,000-yard back? And how's he approach that if you have?
We talk about it before every scrimmage. You know, here's the rep count that we're going into in that situation. Here's why we're doing this. Here's the things that you need to work on. It may be in this particular practice or scrimmage, man, we don't need to see you run the ball 10 times. We may only limit you 5 runs, but we're going to do a really good job of getting you in pass protection to where you got to do a really good job in terms of maximizing those opportunities. He's been good, and he understands the plan and the process in terms of, man, you're not going to sit up here and go try to win a championship in March and April, you know, but if you get a guy banged up, then you end up losing it from that standpoint. So he's understood that in terms of, here's the things that I got to work on. He knows, because we've talked about that a lot, here's the things that we got to work on and make sure that it's consistent pluses all the way through my game and no minuses. So he's done a good job with that.
Your first year here, you had Nico, who was a redshirt freshman at the time. This year, back to either redshirt freshman or more likely as the starting quarterback. When you're coaching your backs, when you have a younger quarterback, is there anything you kind of you try to instill in your group, try to help the younger quarterback out? You know, just because younger quarterbacks may need a little more help
Yeah.
from the receivers, offensive line, running backs.
Yeah.
than normal.
Making sure that we're doing a really good job being efficient on first downs when we're running the ball and being efficient on first downs when we're throwing the ball, keeping that quarterback upright. I think when you sit up here and you look at it, you hit on a key word. Like when you got a young guy back there, like the running game becomes his best friend in terms of we're maximizing those opportunities. Same situation in the passing game too, to where you're making sure you're doing a really good job of giving him a clean pocket to where he's able to drop back and push the ball down the field or get the ball out quick. He don't have a bunch of trash in his face. So for us, just understanding we got to keep the quarterback upright and keep him clean. And at the same time, when we're running the ball, you got to go get more than what's blocked up. You know what I'm saying? In terms of putting us in second down in short situations, third down in short situations if it gets there. For us, we always talk about this. Being a running back means if I want to be elite, I'm going to get more than what's blocked up front. So if they're blocking it for 4, I'm going to get 6. You know what I'm saying? So we do a really good job of trying to maximize that in terms of helping the young guy out.
We'll finish with Ryan.
Just with that offensive line, what have you seen from them in the run game so far?
It's been really good. You know, like all those guys that we got in that offensive line room, they had a physicality about them. You know, our first 8 practices done a phenomenal job. Like the new pieces that we added as well. You see we got some length in there. You see we got some guys that got a little bit more physicality, you know what I'm saying, from that standpoint. So as a whole, they've done a really good job in these first 8 practices. Excited about that room that we get to run behind.
Thank you.
Cool.